All right, guys, it is Friday, February the 16th at about 12:43 p.m. The reason I'm saying that is because I'm going to be talking about the Jason Mead trial, which the jury is currently deliberating and trying to come up with a verdict. It's important that I timestamp this because things are happening so fast and it's so confusing in this trial that it's important to point out exactly what moment I'm talking about here. So Friday, so far this trial has been incredibly tumultuous. It's been incredibly confusing. And the events today on Friday have been par for the course. The reason I'm making this video right now is because this has been so crazy and so action-packed that it's leaving a lot of people confused. And I wanted to come on real quick and just tell everybody exactly what's going on and offer an explanation for this. If you haven't been following too closely, I'm not going to rehash the trial, but the jury has been in deliberations for 3 days now. They began with 12 jurors and 3 alternates. They've dismissed 3 jurors, including one this morning. So now all 3 alternates are now on the jury, and they're in the jury room. They're trying to come up with a verdict, a decision in this case. And they've asked a series of questions of the judge throughout this process, and the judge has given them answers. And today, the jury, they couldn't come up with a verdict. They were still confused. They didn't know what to do. And the judge actually declared a mistrial. A mistrial is not what anybody wants to see in this case. It's not what the prosecution wants to see. It's not what Casey Goodson's family wants to see. It's absolutely not what law enforcement officers and Jason Mead want to see in this case. We all want to see a resolution. We want to see how the courts are now going to handle cases like Jason Mead's case going forward. So a mistrial is absolutely devastating. We don't want Jason to have to live the rest of his life if this is just simply dismissed with the cloud over his head that you weren't acquitted. It was just a mistrial, so you're still guilty. We also don't want to see everybody have to go through another trial. That would be horrible outcome for everybody involved. So then right after declaring a mistrial, the judge came back out and actually retracted the mistrial and told the jurors to go back in and deliberate. And I have a clip for you. I'm going to play it in just a second. This clip is going to help explain why the judge came to that decision. And it's really just the fact that it wasn't that the jury was unable to come to a decision. It was actually the fact that the jury was confused about how they come to a decision, a verdict on this case. So I'm going to play that clip for you now, and then I'm going to come back and explain exactly what's going on and what it means.
I received the question, can we return a verdict of yes, that the state proved their case, and yes, it was justified for 1 count, not guilty, and a verdict of yes, that the state proved their case, and no, it was not justified, guilty for another count. We have asked this question previously, but are still unclear of how to interpret your responses. I'm responding, if you find that the defendant proved justification as to 1 count, it applies to all counts. I'm going to set aside the mistrial, and the jury is going to continue to deliberate.
All right, so that is what's going on. It's not that the jury can't come to a conclusion. It's that they don't understand what their conclusion is supposed to be. I believe that this is a factor of the prosecution's case being so confusing and the prosecution interjecting a lot of information that was not necessary in this trial and confusing the jury. The prosecution has to prove their case beyond shadow of a reasonable doubt. The prosecution has multiple charges that Deputy Jason Mead is facing. I don't have them all right in front of me, but it's basically murder, manslaughter, some kind of aggravated assault, felonious assault, cause or attempt to cause serious physical harm that results in death. These are the charges that Deputy Mead is facing. The defense is trying to say, listen, he committed this offense. He shot somebody and he killed that person. But due to his job as a police officer, he was justified in doing so. Now, the prosecution, when they were presenting their case, they made a big deal out of telling all of the jurors, listen, we have different culpable mental states. We have knowingly caused. We have recklessly caused. We do have by means of negligence, which is just mean that you recklessly caused harm to another person. And they talked about all of the different counts, the murder, the manslaughter, the aggravated assault, the felonious assault, all of them. And they tried to talk about how you can have a reckless homicide, a negligent homicide, an intentional homicide. They went through all of these things, and they told the juror, listen, we believe we have proved all of these things. We don't believe the defense has proven that that this is a legitimate use of force. Now, the jury asked the judge, if we think that this was a justified use of force on one count, can we say it was a justified use account of force, say, for murder, but then for a negligent homicide or for a felonious assault, can we say that it wasn't justified for felonious assault? And I think one of the things that they were probably trying to do, as I'm just working through it as I'm talking, I think the jury was probably trying to say that this was a justified use of force as felonious assault, like you can present deadly force when you're faced with deadly force, but he didn't need to kill him, so they would like to say it wasn't a justified killing, although it was a justified felonious assault. That's what I'm thinking is going through the judge's head, or the jury's head. But what the judge said is, you have all of these charges, and if you think that the use of force is justified, then you have to be not guilty on all of these charges. You can't have a justified use of force and then a guilty verdict on any one of these charges. I think that is why the jury has been confused. They're trying to figure out if how to pair up the two things. And that's the way this works. If this was a justified use of force by Officer Meade, then he is not guilty on all counts. The fact that the jury believes that he was justified to use force, at least on some of the counts, is actually a very, very good thing for the defense in this case. This is a very good thing for Jason Meade, because it shows that there are already jurors that believe his use of force was justified. They're just confused about how that works out with the criminal offenses and how to make their decisions. So I hope that this helps clarify things and why there was initially a mistrial issued by the judge and then it was retracted, because he realized that the jury was not actually deadlocked. They were just confused about how they're supposed to rule on this case. So I'm going to go ahead and put this out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as quick as possible. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.